Hello, my name is Connor Lewis. Today's date is November 30th, 2017, and today's password is Pretzel. That being said, for this presentation, I'll be using Open Broadcaster Software's Studio to transition between the video chat with 3 of my audience members in it. Unfortunately, due to some medical complications, 2 of what were supposed to be my audience members were not able to make it, so I had the remaining 3 conference in. I'll give you my friends Marcus, Michael, and Jacob. And this will allow me, Open Broadcaster Software allows me to capture all elements of this and transition between Skype and the Prezi. Chronic illness is a fear for many. For some, a reality. For some, the concept of staying indoors 24 hours a day and never seeing sunlight sounds miserable. Some don't have a choice. There are those who wish they could ditch their dietary restrictions and just once, have a nice, thick, juicy steak dinner without having to worry if they're going to wake up in agony the next day or wake up at all. There are even people who wish they could walk down the candle aisle at Christmas season without wondering if they need to stop and take extra painkillers to cope first. The instances to which I have just described to you are from real people with a real-life medical condition, porphyria, an understudied, unknown, and unrelenting disease that claims the lives of hundreds per year and ruins the lives of thousands. Porphyria has existed throughout many different centuries. It is believed that vampires and werewolves of classic folklore can even be explained by this condition, as they share many similar symptoms. It is also believed that porphyria plagued various members of royalty, including England's King George III. At the time of his reign, he was suspected of being mentally ill, and in 1855, 35 years after he had died, he was retrospectively diagnosed with acute mania. Little did they know back then that it was actually his agony and pain that drove him to such madness. This idea was later proposed in a paper published in 1966. The disease did not stop at his death, mind you. In fact, several descendants of King George III were plagued by porphyria, including his great-great-granddaughter, Princess Charlotte of Prussia, and her son, Prince William of Gloucester. These cases are what later led physicians to believe porphyria may be hereditary. For more information on the detrimental side effects of porphyria when it's gone untreated, feel free to look up the 1994 movie The Madness of King George. Depending on the type, porphyria can affect 1 in a million, or as many as 1 in 10,000. You actually are more likely to get porphyria than you are to die of heat stroke. And you actually are equally as likely to die in a plane crash as you are to get porphyria as well. So, what is this strange disease? What causes it, and what are its roots? Well, not all of these questions are known. But what we do know about porphyria is it results from a buildup of natural chemicals that produce porphyrins in your body. But what are porphyrins? Porphyrins make up a very special portion of the body's blood, called hemoglobin, which is the protein responsible for transporting oxygen through the blood. However, when a person ends up with a deficiency of the enzymes responsible for porphyrin creation, complications can occur. Typically, this will cause an extremely high amount of porphyrins in the body, which will lead to symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, crippling abdominal pain, psychological issues, King George anyone, and even tachycardia, which in layman terms is essentially a heart attack when the heart speeds out of control, and this has led to various porphyria-related deaths. The excess of porphyrins has also been known to cause debilitating pain throughout the body and can even send the immune system into hyperdrive. So, opposite of what AIDS is an autoimmune disease, porphyria is a hyperimmune disease, so it attacks essentially everything, which causes the pain throughout the body. I have personally observed a victim who's noted extreme pain localized to the areas which he used the most throughout his day. For example, if he spent the day typing, he would often experience cramps in his hands and his knuckles specifically. The same went for his legs. If he spent the day walking about, he would have a hard time walking the next day and even may not be able to. This could explain the unrelenting abdominal pain that patients have noted, seeing as the abdomen is the body's core. So, the odds of being a carrier or a victim are actually quite slim. But does that mean it's not a threat? Does this mean you can leave today worry-free? I'll elaborate a bit more to help you with your assessment. Porphyria is an inherited metabolic disorder, meaning one patient may pass on the infected gene to their children and then they become a carrier. Unfortunately, carriers can get sick as well, meaning the cycle has potential to continue endlessly throughout family lines. Which means, if left untreated, your odds of knowing or even becoming a porphyria patient increase dramatically. But this is where things can change together. The American Porphyria Foundation is the most well-known nonprofit porphyria research corporation. They are responsible for identifying and categorizing the various strands of this disease. In fact, they are the most helpful and sought-after source for patients who feel alone in the world, as the APF has built a community to aid in supporting the victims. However, despite all this fame, recognition, and respect, the APF has only received $600,000 per year in funding for research and conducting awareness. Less than $1 million a year for a rare and painful condition. But that can change, with just a little help. Together, we can donate to places like the American Porphyria Foundation. We can get this condition the exposure it deserves in the media and the proper awareness we need to get in order to help those that are suffering. But if no donations are made, this disease will be allowed to manifest itself within the genes of others, and it will not be stopped. But if we act now, we can save so many lives. We are now at a point, technologically speaking, where we as a society can create miracles. The unfortunate victims of the past had to die as martyrs, so that we may study them and succeed in our efforts. It is now time to take the knowledge with which they have left us and change things for the better. In case I did not explain myself well enough, I'll remind you for whom you fight. They are a small group, growing rapidly. They are quietly sitting alone in pitch-black rooms, taking intense painkillers, or simply trying to sleep off their agony. They are gnawing at their muscles, trying to stop the pain. They are misunderstood and ignored. Some are even holding jobs and careers, but must remain anxious at all times for fear of a random attack. These are porphyria patients. These are people too. If we as a country just donated 10 cents apiece, just one dime, which I'm sure you can find in your couches, the American Porphyria Foundation could have up to $30 million with which to conduct research and raise awareness. Imagine what we could do if we could get the entire world to team up with us. Take note with your minds and take action with your hearts.